Welcome to The Art of Medicine, the program that explores the arts, business, and clinical aspects of the practice of medicine. I'm your host, Dr. Andrew Wilner. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Alexis Gallati, founder and lead tax strategist of Cerebral Tax Advisors. But before we get started, I'd like to thank our sponsor, locumstory.com. Maybe you're curious about locums and how it might fit into your career story. But do you know all the different reasons physicians choose locums and how it works for them? At locumstory.com, you can hear firsthand stories as diverse as physicians themselves. There's not one solution for everyone. The variety of opportunities might surprise you. Locum Story is an unbiased educational resource. It has tools that let you explore trends in your specialty and compare different locums agencies. There's even a simple quiz to see if locums is right for you. Do your own research at locumstory.com. It's easy. Okay, and without further ado, I'd like to introduce my special guest, Alexis Gallati. Alexis, thanks for joining the program.
Hi, Andrew. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Alexis, in my introduction, I had written something and then I was afraid to use it in the introduction. So I want to test it out on you. How about this? You ready?
Yes.
Alexis specializes in helping physicians maintain an honest, respectful relationship with the IRS while paying as little in taxes as possible.
I like it. I like it a lot. Yeah.
Would you put that on your website? You know, is that would you say that's accurate?
It is. Yes. Yes. I'm very much into obviously saving tax for my clients, but also making sure that we are compliant. Everything we put on a tax return, we feel comfortable defending in an audit. So we want to make sure.
And you will with no extra charge, right? Is that part?
Exactly.
Is that in the fine print? You will. Okay.
So it is. Yes. Yes. We back up all of our work.
You know, I like that because so many consultants and a tax advisor really is a kind of consultant, but they don't stand behind their work, you know, particularly investment people. It's like you give them $100,000 and they invest it and 2 years later it's worth 50. And they said, well, you know, we did our best. It's like with no guarantees. That's right up front. No guarantees, right? But tax accountants are different. Now, when I was looking at your website, I saw that you know, your training, obviously you're a CPA, a certified public accountant. Is that right?
Actually, I'm an enrolled agent.
An enrolled agent. It's that like what do they call it? A special agent? Is that, you know, I watch NCIS a lot and they're all special agents. Tell me about enrolled. I don't know what an enrolled agent is.
Yes. Unfortunately, the enrolled agent profession or licensing doesn't have as good a lobbying as the CPA licensing. So with enrolled agent, we are federally licensed. So it's actually the IRS that gives us our licensing, and we specialize in taxation. So I like to think of it as if you have a CPA, they're more generalists. So you'll have some that will do taxation. They'll do auditing of financial statements. They'll just do bookkeeping, etc. Some will do all of it. Some will specialize. But with enrolled agents, our testing and our education is focused on just the tax aspect. So it's almost like the CPA exams portion of it's called the regulation exam. So that's the tax portion of the CPA exam. It's on steroids. And so all of our testing and our licensing is just around taxation. But I do have my undergraduate in accounting and finance. I double majored. And then I also have my MBA and then my master's in taxation. And so I have all the criteria and everything needed to do the CPA exam, but I knew I did not want to audit financial statements. That's something I just did not want to go down. And so I went for the enrolled agent licensing, and we have all the same rights and privileges as a CPA. We can both represent you all the way up to tax court. Once you get to tax court, you have to use an attorney. But the only thing I can't do is just sign off on financial statements.
Okay, well, that's very helpful. One of the reasons I do this program is I like to interview people who know more than I do, and so I can learn something.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
that was great. Now, by way of disclosure, my father was a certified public accountant, and he also was an attorney. So he did
Oh,
a
that's
lot of
great.
schooling. He passed the New York bar, but he practiced as a CPA. And I think his role was mostly well, in fact, growing up, a lot of his clients were physicians. But he also had clients that owned factories, that owned shoe stores. It was kind of an old fashioned in those days, which was common, right? Because that was the old days. But to have a very, very general practice in a small accounting firm. Now, your firm, yes, I was interested in the title, Cerebral Tax. As a neurologist, I certainly had some connection there. And I understand you have connection with neurologists also. Tell me about that.
Yeah, yeah. So I grew up in a physician household. My father is a neurologist. He practiced up in Berkshire County, Massachusetts, and that's where I grew up. Um, and he retired in I believe it was 2018. But then I also have an aunt and uncle that are physicians as well. My aunt's a infectious disease, and my uncle is a pathologist. Um, and my husband is a physician, and he's a neurosurgeon. So yeah, it was actually my husband that came up with the Cerebral name. I was rebranding, and I think it was like 2017 or 2018. Um, and yeah, he was just like, why not use Cerebral, and like it makes sense. And I'm like, that's perfect, because I wanted something that just basically talked about, not that was also obviously uh, uh, medical related, but also kind of talked about how accountants and tax advisors think as well.
Yeah, that's an echo to your father, and that's nice. And also, I mean, one of the questions we're going to get to is why someone like yourself to do my tax return versus H&R Block, right? I
Mhm.
mean, that's the question because H&R Block is going to be quicker and easier and less expensive, I presume. And
Mhm.
so where the extra money, I mean, it's just a form, right? It's just a tax return form. And if you have another business, maybe there's another form, right? But the
Mhm.
forms are really short, like 3 pages. Not that big a deal, right? But so tell me about that. Why, if hypothetically I was a client, okay, and I come to you and I say I had this other accountant, H&R Block, but it was my understanding a cerebral tax advisor might do better with me. Say, okay, Dr. Wilner, well, we're pretty busy right now, but let me take a look at your last tax return, I presume, is what you'd want to see. And here is some ways I could probably help you. What would be the low hanging fruit there, you know, without divulging too many trade secrets?
Oh yeah, well, that's the beautiful thing. They're definitely not trade secrets. That's everything is in the code, and the code is open for everybody. It's just knowing how to read it properly, and having the time to do it. And so that's really where Cerebral is different, and we can talk about that in a moment. But to get to your original question, um, yeah, things that a lot of our clients miss are, especially if they own a business. I find that they tend to commingle their business and personal funds a lot. And
Hmm.
this tends to be a big no-no with the IRS. And so this is one way that we help educate them and allow them to, continue to be in the good graces of the IRS and the state. And by having those deductions properly organized and reported, they're able to take a lot more in terms of savings. So like, let's say, you want to hire your kid through your business. Like that's something everybody should be doing if you have a business and you have children that are of appropriate age, which the court tested age is 7. Um, that's definitely a low hanging fruit there in order to shift from that income from your higher tax bracket down to your child's zero tax bracket if all goes
Hmm.
according to plan. Um, So that's one of my
I'm gonna
favorite.
keep that one in mind. My son isn't ready yet, but now I have a goal for him. It's like, okay, you could start contributing to the refrigerator fund. He's a big
Well,
eater.
yeah, well, yes, I have three boys myself. I know all about that. Unfortunately, they definitely keep me very busy at the grocery store. Um, but yes, the great thing about that though is you can actually use that money to fund their own Roth account and help create a legacy for them. Because let's say that you start at age 7 and you just put it in, let's say right this year it's $6,500, and so you pay them enough to reach that $6,500 amount, and over a 10-year period, if they were to just leave that alone until they needed it in their mid 60s, let's say, I mean, you're going to have well over $2 million that they can then take out tax free if they need it.
All right. Well, you can defer on this one if you want, but you mentioned you have three sons. Three.
Yes.
So what are their jobs? How did you employ them? What do
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
do?
So actually, I have 4 children. I shouldn't forget about my daughter. She's the youngest, but she is not on payroll yet.
Okay.
um, so yeah, my 3 boys, they are 11, 10, and 8. So various jobs that they do are things like shredding paper, they're stamping envelopes, they're stuffing envelopes, they're cleaning my office. My older one, I mean, they're all very good with computers. I mean, kids nowadays, it's like they're born using an iPad, but they can go on and organize folders and files for me, etc. So there's a number of things that children can do to get up to that, what I like to call the minimum amount, which is the Roth contribution amount. Like I said, this year it's $6,500 for 2023, and then for 2024 it is 7,000.
I like that. So they're office assistants, right? Number
Essentially,
one,
yep.
number two, and number three, office assistants. And the IRS, and I presume that the $6,500 that you pay them is actually a business expense, right?
It
Is that a
is.
business expense? Yeah. So
Yep.
that's not just that, like, it's not like taking money out of your pocket. So that's taking money from the business earnings. So that actually lowers your taxes. Is that right?
Exactly. Yep. So this is an income shifting strategy. So
Mm.
you're again taking that $6,500, moving it from your higher tax bracket to their lower tax bracket, and hopefully zero, because obviously, they're 10 years old and they don't have any other jobs. And then as long as for 2024, you keep it under $14,600 in earned income, they're not paying any tax on that money. They're paying Social Security and Medicare tax if it's through an S Corp or C Corp, but you can actually avoid having to withhold Social Security and Medicare tax on their salary if you are in a partnership or a sole proprietorship. So that $6,500 is, or even 7,000 is 100% tax free in those two entities.
Aren't there child labor laws?
There are, yes, but there's a federal exception for children that work in a family business.
Ah, okay.
Yes.
It almost makes it sound worthwhile to have children.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, back in the day, that's why families had all these kids so they could work on the farm. So
So
now they
they
can just go work in whatever business you have.
they could do some work. Okay, well, I like that. That opens a whole window. That's great. That's great. How about common tax errors? Where do physicians pay too much?
Yeah. Um, well, I find that they're not going, and this is also another low hanging fruit, is that they're not maximizing their retirement contributions.
Mm.
So I have some clients that will come to me and they have, their W-2, and then they'll have a little bit of 1099 income, doing locum work, or maybe they have a side gig, et cetera. And they're not maxing out their employer's match, or
Mm.
even just their employee deferral, which for 2023 it's 22,500, in 2024 it's 23,000. And so, I mean, they're leaving money on the table, especially if there's some sort of match that the employer has. Um, and then if they have income from a side gig or from locum tenens, et cetera, or even if you just have your own practice and you don't have a retirement account, I mean, you're essentially paying the IRS instead of putting that money inside your retirement, letting that grow tax deferred, and then having another getting tax savings from that deduction as well.
Now, probably should have asked you this at the beginning, but why? I know you have a medical background, but what is special about physicians and their businesses that an entire company like yours only would recruit physicians as clients? Why
Yeah.
are physicians unique?
Yeah. So the reason why I started working with physicians was because it happened originally kind of organically. It was just the crowds that my husband and I were hanging with, and they were asking me tax questions, and then they wanted to work with us, et cetera. Um, but the main reason is because, when my husband was doing his residency, it was like a couple years before he was finishing up and he was starting to, start looking at jobs. I saw the writing on the wall. I knew that our tax bracket was going to go way up. And so I had so many other clients that are in that same position. I wanted to know, I know how to report a tax return properly. What are the tax strategies that the Warren Buffetts and the Bill Gates of the world are using to help lower their tax liability? And so that's when I really decided to I started Cerebral, and I was focused on the tax planning strategies. And when, so basically, as I was learning these things for myself, this became kind of a mission for me to help other physicians and their families to save tax too. So we do a lot of the same strategies. My husband and I do a lot of the same financial strategies and tax strategies that our clients do. And so it's very comforting for those that come to work with us to know that we're in a very similar situation. We're doing a lot of the same strategies as well. And so it just kind of happened organically in that manner. And especially with being at a higher tax bracket, that's very unique compared to a lot of the rest of the United States. There are strategies that just are not available to people in lower tax brackets. So being able to educate and provide sound and unbiased advice at Cerebral, we don't sell any products, we don't take any commissions or kickbacks. So everything is purely educational and for our clients' best interest. And we're not strategy pushers either. So if you don't feel comfortable with the strategy, that's completely fine. I just want to make sure you know about the strategy. We're bringing new ideas to the table, and maybe down the road it'll be something you're interested in.
Right. Well, number one, that's great that there's no sort of commission involved, because I don't know, whenever it comes to money, you have to look for, is there a special interest? Is there some reason why this product is better than, that
Yeah.
product? Whenever you see an ad, oh, this is, some herbal thing that's going to cure cancer, you got to, well, who's telling you that? Is it the physician, or is it the guy selling the product who's making, money on it, right? So whatever, you get paid the same is the bottom line, right? Regardless of how the physician, the client chooses to do their tax return. You tell them this is something you could do. Now they may say, well, yeah, you're right. I should put, $50,000, into my retirement fund, but I already spent it. You ever run into that? Is it a budgeting issue?
It can be, especially at the year end, when if they'd come to me earlier, okay, we could have planned
Hmm.
for that cash flow issue. But luckily, there are a lot of different retirement accounts that you can set up even after year end that can apply to the prior year. So even just a simple solo 401k, for example, you won't be able to do the employee deferral, but you can at least do the employer portion, the profit sharing portion after year end. So there's, even though the majority of strategies need to be implemented before year end to take advantage of them, there are still a few strategies you can do after year end to help save tax.
Okay, so this is great. What I wanted to do was highlight some of the sort of the inside information that someone who does this every day would have versus someone who doesn't do it every day, won't have. And I think we've done that. So who would be your prospective client? If I'm a doctor and I'm listening to this, it's like, oh yeah, I need to go to her, or nah, it's I'm happy with the way things are. There's really nothing else I can do. How would somebody know whether they should give you a call?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we work with a small amount of clients every year, and that's by design. So then that way we can provide amazing customer service, amazing communication, et cetera. And so we have criteria to work with us. One is that you need to be making at least $400,000 a year gross in all of your income sources. And then having at least $50,000 to $60,000 of income as a 1099 independent contractor. So
Hmm.
doing locum tenens or a side gig, etc. So making sure we have those two criteria. So then that way I can provide a guarantee on our tax planning services. So that's another big difference between Cerebral and other firms is that when I design a plan, I want to make sure that I at least 2x your return on that investment in us, and to make sure that you're essentially we're saving you more than what you pay us.
That
So if you
sounds that sounds good. But because the point
yeah,
is, if you're making $75,000 a year, there's just not a wiggle room to take
exactly.
advantage of these other programs. You're just going to do what the IRS says to do, and then there's nothing left. So it's that extra money that's left over that can go here and go there and maybe draw down your taxes. And
Exactly. A
and
lot
you,
of it is, oops, sorry, go ahead.
no, no, and you know how to find it was what I was going to say. And you have the time to find it. I think the other part, why physicians are special is most of them are not spending their free time trying to figure out their budgets and accounting for the next year. If they have free time, that's not where it's going. So that this tends to be papers are dusty, they're in a shoebox, they don't want to be bothered. Would you say
Yeah.
that you have clients like that?
Oh, yes. Yep. And that's why majority of our clients come to us is because Cerebral is white glove. We're hand holding. When we recommend a strategy, we're going to take you step by step and make sure that that strategy is being done properly and it's getting done. So we have a lot of clients that come to us with, like their shoe boxes. We're 100% virtual. So we have clients in over 40 plus states. And so we're able to take everything and make it very streamlined and efficient. Like I said, we're very big on communication, making things as easy as possible for our clients. So then that way, you guys can do the amazing work that you do, and we can take something off of your plate. So those that work well with us are those that want us to be almost like a quarterback for them and get things done.
Now, it sounds like you're not the only one there to handle this. How many of you are there at Cerebral Tax Advisors?
Yeah, so there's actually 15 of us right
Oh,
now.
wow. Okay.
And we have, as of today, we have about 130 clients that are on our tax maintenance packages. So I keep a very, uh, I guess high or low. I'm not sure what that ratio would be, but not patient, client to team member ratio.
Yes, yes.
So yeah, I primarily work with those when it comes to the tax planning and obviously the business development, et cetera. And then we have a great tax team that makes sure that all the um, uh, plans the plans are actually being reported properly on the tax returns, handling any notices that come through, or if we any sort of client questions, et cetera. And then we have a great accounting department that we do bookkeeping for. We're always making sure that the books are up to date as well. And then we have a great obviously marketing team and operations team as well when it comes to the admin work behind it.
Okay, so how could someone reach you should they be so inclined?
Yeah, yeah. Well, we actually created a website, a page specifically for the art of medicine. So it's www.cerebraltaxadvisors.com/AOM. And hopefully those will be in the show notes. And so basically, if you go there, then you can check out some different offerings that we have. I am the author of Advanced Tax Planning for Medical Professionals, and was really a brain dump of my different tax strategies. And it's a really great starting point to just learning what's available out there and seeing if it applies to you. And then we also have Cerebral Wealth Academy, which is for more of the people that are the do-it-yourselfers in the group. And so if you want to, if you have that 1099 income, from doing locum or side gig, and you want to start your business right, or you want to make sure that you're doing those right things, then Cerebral Wealth Management is a really great course for you to go through. And then, of course, there's Cerebral Tax Advisors for those that, hey, I don't have the time for it, Alexis. I need you to do it for me. We got your back.
That sounds very appealing. Well, before we close, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to discuss taxes with you today. I've had an amazing time, and I look forward to helping anybody that might have questions about their tax situation.
Alexis Gallati, I want to thank you very much for being a guest on The Art of Medicine.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Andrew.
Now, before we close, I'd like to give another thanks to our sponsor, locumstory.com, a resource where providers can get real, unbiased answers about locum tenens. I'm Dr. Andrew Wilner. See you next time.
This program is hosted, edited, and produced by Andrew Wilner, MD, FACP, FAAN. Guests receive no financial compensation for their appearance on The Art of Medicine. Andrew Wilner, MD, is Associate Professor of Neurology at the University of Tennessee Health Science Center, Memphis, Tennessee. Views, thoughts, and opinions expressed on this program belong solely to Dr. Wilner and his guests, and not necessarily to their employers, organizations, or other group or individual. While this program intends to be informative, it is meant for entertainment purposes only. The Art of Medicine does not offer professional financial, legal, or medical advice. Dr. Wilner and his guests assume no responsibility or liability for any damages, financial or otherwise, that arise in connection with consuming this program's content. Thanks for watching. For more episodes of The Art of Medicine, please subscribe. www.andrewwilner.com